Hello, Market 76, and maybe some other people. I hope you're all doing well today, as my mule wishes you all a good Monday evening, or whichever day it is when you watch it back. So, I've decided to do a few, well, I say a few, maybe a bit more, but some videos based around helping new players to trade. Primarily, I trade on the Market 76 subreddit on Reddit. Sometimes I use Facebook Unstoppables, but most of the time I've always used Reddit. Don't ask me why, I just prefer it. I find that there's a lot more trades going on Reddit, more so than Facebook anyway. If you look on Facebook, sometimes you might get one an hour. You'll rarely have 5 minutes pass on Reddit before there's a trade going, being offered. So the first of these videos is something that I've seen quite often, newer traders posting that they have GROLLS or godrolls for the lengthier version available for trade when in fact they're not a godroll. So when you first start trading, it can be quite confusing, obviously. What you think is a godroll isn't a godroll. I mean, obviously this is kind of subject to opinion, but I'd say this video is gonna look at weapons, and I would say 90% plus of players and traders on Market 76 at least would say that these are the genuine godrolls. So I'll also identify effects which are not godrolls. And maybe I'll identify stuff that might, like I say, might be usable certainly, but these videos are for the purpose of helping newer players when it comes to trading. So let's jump into it. This first guy I use, he's called Ving Rhames because he looks a bit like Ving Rhames, and I needed to give my mules characters names. So he carries my rifles amongst other stuff. I think he has bows as well. So I'm going to start with the most sort of popular weapon type, which is Commando. Automatic rifles, you can of course use these single fire, but we're going to look at automatic rifles first. So this is going to be a first example of a godroll. It's a handmade, like probably, equal or just below popularity to the fixer. So the first thing we're looking at is the prefix, which is anti-armor. You'll find that across all weapon types, the prefixes are kind of going to be the same. There might be a few exceptions. So anti-armor, any kind of weapon is good. I mean, it's the best in my opinion. Some people prefer bloodied. Quad might be good or preferable on some weapon types, but in general, anti-armor, I would say most of the community view it as the most powerful. I've always preferred it to bloody, because to get the extra bonuses for bloodied when I play, my health has to be so low that I just run the risk of dying far more often. So I always prefer anti-armor. The second perk is 25% faster fire rate. With commandos, I'd say this is equal, or it's probably equal to 50% VATS crit damage as a secondary perk. There are rumours that the way critical hits are going to change with the next major update, that 25% faster fire rate might become more popular than 50% VATS crit damage. We're yet to see that for sure, but I'd say the two are on a par. The third perk we have here is 25% less VATS action point cost. I'm going to have to shorten these as I'm going through the video, so I'm going to use the abbreviations that I use on when I trade on Market 76. So for faster fire rate, I would say 25 FFR. For the third perk, I would say 25 LBC. So that is without doubt the most desirable third perk on a commando. So right here, this is one of the best handmade you could get in the game. I can't think of many better ones. Some people would prefer quad, but I'm one of these people who use a certain glitch whereby my clip doesn't reduce very quickly. So I'll let you look into that. But yeah, while that glitch exists, you know, I'm one of these people that is going to use it because that's just me. If the game's going to give me a way of fiddling it a bit, I'm going to take advantage of it. Probably. I probably shouldn't say that, but it is what it is. So if we look down the next one here, we've got railway rifle. I love railway rifles. Taking down the Queen, it's better than Law Legacies to me. Anti-armor again, explosive damage. Bullets explode for area damage. It's a really good second perk. Some people would prefer this to 25 FFR or 50 VATS crit damage. I prefer critical hits because I often sneak around and shoot stuff. But yeah, it's a good. Sometimes I use explosive on weapons. I like explosive effect on vampire weapons because the damage of vampires sort of synergizes well with explosive effects because of, I think, the splash damage. I can't remember exactly how to describe that best, but vampires and explosive work well together. Faster reload, again, like I say, if you don't ammo glitch, then this is a useful third perk, I guess. You would still call this a godroll, but it would be at the very bottom tier. I would say not many people like 15% faster reload as a third perk. Some very few groups of people like it, but I would place it low in the list. Let's see what else we've got. Automatic. Plasma rifle. I know it says pistol, but with plasmas you can just change the barrel as long as it's not an enclave. So regular plasma rifle, same roll as the handmade, really good roll. The only thing with plasma rifles is that the VATS cost is stupidly high. I mean, with enclaves, for me, it's just downright unusable. I just don't like using enclaves. I know they've got that slightly more damage, but I would always go with a regular. I've tried it and I can't get along with enclaves. So this is a great roll for things like plasmas. They've got a bigger clip than certain other things, I think. So just bear that in mind. Teslas, Tesla rifles, faster fire, really good on them. Less VATS cost is questionable with Teslas because not many people use Teslas with VATS. I do sometimes. I don't actually use Teslas very often, but when I do, I'm just a VATS whore. I use VATS with some heavy weapons. I'm just lazy. So a lot of people would say the best Tesla roll is a quad faster fire rate, faster reload. People like faster reload on Teslas more than any other commando, I would say. So that's something to bear in mind. If this anti-armor was a vampire 25%, 25, that'd be a good roll. A quad would be a great roll. A blooded would be a great roll. As I was saying earlier, it's kind of the same with all weapon types. I'm actually one of these people who likes aristocrats. I would say I'm not in the majority. I find the damage I get from it's on my main character, but I have see if I've got one with crit. So this, for example, an Ari, 50 VATS crit damage, 15 VATS crit faster. The one I use on my main is the same as this, but I have 25 LVC as the third, and I swear it does more damage than my anti-armor version. I don't know if I'm just got a placebo effect because I like aristocrats because it's kind of new, but I swear it does more damage or just as good damage. So I'm one of these people who like this. I mean, railway rifles, before they nerfed the VATS cost, this third perk, 15% VATS crit fills faster, was actually the best, because you could just burn through an ammo clip on a railway, and you know, your AP would just barely go down. You could just burn through a whole quad clip and you wouldn't use all your AP. Now it's different. Now people want 25 LVCs on railways. So yeah, I like our aristocrats. What have we got here? I mean, here's an example of what isn't a god roll. 50% VATS hit chance. That is part of god rolls, but the 250 damage resistance while reloading is not. So if you have any combination of secondary perks with third perks that are not very desirable to the trading community, it is not a god roll. And that you're seeing a lot of posts which, it's not anyone's fault who creates the post because they're probably new to trading, but god rolls are very specific, especially given the fact that since legendary crafting became a thing, the value of so many items has just shot down. And if you're trading, people are only wanting god rolls for non-legacy weapons. They ain't going to be wanting things that have... I'm going to sneeze, excuse me, my hay fever. Oh no, it's gone. They're not going to want 250 damage while reloading. It's coming back. Excuse me. Excuse me. So it's just something to bear in mind. The way trading is now, you have to have perfect rolls to have a chance at trading them realistically. Let's move on to Bloodied. So, what have we got here? Here's kind of a spanner in the works. So Bloodied obviously is a prefix that people want on all weapon types. That's good. 50% VATS hit chance. Actually on railways, I would say it's actually more desirable on railways than I would say some other commandos. Maybe that is the accuracy worse on a railway. 64. What is it on a handmade? Maybe the accuracy is slightly worse on railways in general. I'm not 100% sure. So that's okay. 50% VATS hit chance is kind of weird because the third perks to make it a god roll are very selective in my opinion. If you had 25 LVC on this weapon, it would be a god roll. In my opinion, any other third perk would make this gun not a god roll, including this. So even though they are two VATS perks and they synergize, I would argue that you would have quite a difficult time trading this because people do not want 50% VATS hit chance with 15 VATS crit fills faster. I'm going to start calling this 15 VCF. I'd argue that people don't want the secondary and third perks together. It's just not what people want with commandos. They want VATS hit chance with 25 LVC and that only. Things we've seen here before. This is an interesting secondary perk that was introduced with the last big update. Replenish action points with each kill. In my opinion, it is useless. Some people like it when they come across large mobs, but I find I'm rarely surrounded by enough enemies for this perk to become usable. There's just far better secondary perks. It's bottom tier for me. So this is not a god roll. Not enough people want that secondary perk, replenish action points with each kill, for it to be considered a god roll. What else do we have? What are these ultra sites? So we have this, laser. Bloodied, yes. 25 FFR, yes. Faster reload, yes. I mean, this would be considered a god roll, but again, low tier in my opinion. Commandos, as I've said many times already in this video, 25 LVC is far and away the best third perk in terms of trading. So you would consider this a god roll, but bottom tier. What else have we got here? Combat rifle, one of the most underrated weapons in the game, because as soon as a fixer came along, it was like nobody wants this thing. But I still use them sometimes. So this is a really good combo. This is like even to 25 FFR, 25 LVC. It's the same thing, it's just got explosive effect instead of FFR. So this is top tier. People like explosive on commandos and 25 LVC. So look out, mark these down in your inventory as top tier god rolls. This is the creme de la creme of commandos in terms of secondary and third perks. 50% VATS crit hits do 50% damage. That didn't make sense, did it? No, VATS critical hits do 50% of damage and 25 LVC. So anti-armor, bloodied, vampire, quad versions of this exact roll are the best trade value by far, by quite a considerable amount, I would argue. 25-25 is probably just below, and it's getting, that gap is getting closer, but this used to be, you know, quite a considerable amount ahead. The funny thing with I've mentioned anti-armor, bloodied, vampire and quad are desirable. Two-shot is kind of a bit of a... People aren't, in my opinion, fussed by two-shot anymore. I think the loss of accuracy in VATS puts people off. So this is a nice roll, and it's a god roll, obviously, because I think two-shot still falls into the god roll category. Just. As does aristocrat. I would put two-shot and aristocrat on the same kind of same line. Well, I want a better word for it, but I'm just going to go with line. But they're not in the same tier as anti-armor, bloodied, quad and vampire. What else do we have here? Furious. See, for me, Furious is just any roll of a Furious is not a god roll, because, like I've said many times, the market is so flooded with weapons now and rolls that they only want top tier stuff. Furious is not top tier. This Furious 25-25, in my opinion, it is not a god roll, and you would have difficulty trading this for anything. Same with Ghoul Slayers, you know, other prefixes that are focused on damaging certain enemy types. It's nice for a collector, but you are gonna have a hard time trading this to anyone but collectors, or maybe someone will give you like 10,000 caps, something like that, maybe more, but they are not god rolls. Ghoul Slayer, Mutant Slayer, Assassin, you know, Stalkers, these prefixes are not god rolls, whatever the secondary and third perks are. It's just not a thing. What else? Zealot is another one. You know, we haven't got a weapon there, but it's just an armor piece. Okay, so let's have a look at some of these. Let's have a look at these quads, just to go over some of the quads. So, as I said, even though I might take advantage of a certain loophole, many people don't. And I actually look forward to the day where they fix that glitch, because it does take some of the challenge away from the game. So I like to keep some quad weapons in case that day comes. So we mentioned 15% faster reload was not as desirable these days. If they ever fix that glitch, this is a great gun. Um, there was a lovely guy who used to trade on Market 76, and he did a video on this at how effective it was killing Earl fast. And yeah, he spammed critical hits. So this is a god roll. I would say a 15% faster reload is more beneficial. I would say maybe on quad weapons. Maybe it's more desirable on quad weapons that are focused around firing as many bullets as possible in as short space amount of time, and then you want to reload quicker. So I would say on quad weapons that it's maybe more of a desirable third. On other prefixes, not so much. So this, for example, again, great god roll, quad explosive, really good damage. The damage isn't showing properly on this because this mule is, I think, under level 20, and he's not got any rifleman perks or commando perks, sorry. So this is a great roll. If that was a railway fix or whatever, that'd be a great roll. For me on fixers, I'd say, for whatever reason, 15% faster reload on a railway is more desirable than on other commando weapons to me. Just from experience of trading on the board, don't ask me why, but it is. If you had that roll explosive, where's it gone? If this was a fixer, I would argue it just isn't as desirable as this railway. It's kind of hard to pinpoint why, but 15% faster reload on a fixer, while you'd still call it a god roll, it's very low tier. It's just not as desirable as other weapons. Right, let's have a look at these fixers. So this is top tier. I've seen a lot of these actually around on the board these days. I think they might have been a dupe because there used to be hardly any of this exact roll, and now there's tens and tens of them each day. So anti-armor, 50% more damage with VATS crit hits, and 25 LBC. This is like one of the best fixes in the game. Like I say, if this was a bloodied, a quad, they are very, very desirable. The quad version of this weapon is probably still the most valuable non-legacy weapon in the game, I think. Maybe Enclave rifles have overtaken that, but still really up there. Actually, the quad 25-25 fixer is all, I think, actually approaching the value of this, and maybe even more now. I think because people are bearing this future update in mind, I'd actually say the 25-25 might be a slightly bit more valuable now. The vampire version of this roll on a fixer is still obviously a god roll, but it isn't as desirable as bloodied or anti-armor. It's just not. Here we go. We've got the bloodied version of the same weapon. Again, really, really top tier. Top tier here, anti-armor explosive, 25 LBC fixer. I really like the VE version of this, the vampire version. As I mentioned before, it's like you've got a god mode on. You can't really die because you're firing bullets that fast that are regaining health so quickly. It's just a great weapon. It's my go-to vampire weapon. So yeah, any AAE 25 or BE 25, QE 25, any commando weapons with that roll are excellent. Here we go. We mentioned earlier about the 50% VATS hit chance only being a god roll with certain thirds, specifically this third. So this is what we would call a B. I would call it a B3325 because before the last big update, VATS hit chance was only a 33% increase. So I still go off the old values. So this together is a god roll and quite desirable to a select group of people. People would prefer crit damage or faster fire rate, but it's quite a nice combination. and it goes well with 25 LBC. It does not, however, go that well with other third perks in terms of trading anyway. As I say earlier with the Furious, it's got the perfect second and third. A lot of people would disagree with me, but I would say that this isn't a god roll because it is Furious. Some people will disagree with me, but I've been on the board a long time. I know what trades, and to me that isn't. Here's another example, Nocturnal. It does solid damage for half the time, or however long it is, not even half. So this to me is not a god roll, it's a collector piece. You would have a hard time trading this nowadays. Here's another one, Gourmand. For me, I just never use this. Why would you use this as a prefix when you've got Aristocrats, which give you 50% damage? And I've actually forgotten how much this does. Is it 25% max? Anyway, this is not a god roll because it is a Gourmand. Gourmand, sorry. And Executioner is a funny one. Some people again like it. For me, it's not a god roll. It's a collector piece. Not enough people will see the value in having it in their inventory and thinking this is going to trade easily, because it isn't. If you can hear me saying "in" and things like that, it's because I'm from Sheffield and my accent's coming out a bit. Again, here's another good example, Suppressors. It's got the E25, which is perfect, but it is not a god roll because nobody wants Suppressors items. Maybe 2% of the trading community play around with Suppressor builds. I don't. I'm never going to use it. I'm never going to trade it. Here's another third perk we haven't seen that was brought in with the last big update. Hits have a chance to generate a stealth field. Now, I've spoken to one person who finds this useful. Every other person says it's useless. I've not done enough testing with it. I've tried it a few times when, like I say, that update hit, and I didn't notice it. It's just not useful compared to other perks. It's just not useful to me. So to me, this is not a god roll. You would have a hard time trading it. And the purpose of these videos is to give you newer players an idea of trading, what's going to trade easily for you. This is not going to trade easily for you, this third effect. Hunters, another one. It's got 25-25, it's Hunters. This is not a god roll. There we go, that's another nice one. Quad 50 VATS hit chance with the 25 LBC, that is definitely a god roll. This is a bit of a funny one. So as I said earlier, Aristocrat is on the borderline. I still call it a god roll because the damage increase you get from it is good in my opinion. It's explosive, good, 15% faster reload though. See, this is a god roll, but it's just. For me, a faster reload on fixers it's just meh. It's just not for me. I'd prefer that to be 15 VATS crit faster, or obviously 25 LBC. But I suppose some people don't play in VATS, so this would be a nice weapon. Some people don't. A lot of people don't glitch ammo clips. This is a nice roll, I suppose. Vampires, very good. Faster fire rate, very good. Faster reload, okay. You would have a hard time trading this though. This is the funny thing with faster reload. For me, it's just on the cusp of being redundant, whilst this, as I keep saying, this glitch exists. So many people do it, they ain't going to use it. It's just not desirable. Let's see what else we've got apart from fixes on here. Pipe. See, I've got a bit of a soft spot for pipe weapons. I like messing around with them sometimes. I just like the sound they make when they fire. This is an excellent roll. So I mentioned earlier, two-shot is not as desirable. However, if you, for whatever reason, this exact combination of prefix and secondary and third perks is very desirable. you would call it on the trading sites TSE 25. If you, in fact, most guns with this exact combo are just very desirable. You got the extra damage with the 2-shot, you've got extra damage with explosive, and this is just one of those things. People will always want TSE 25 weapons, so bear that in mind. I didn't want me mentioning 2-shot earlier and saying it's not as good. With E25, it is very good, very desirable in terms of trading. What else have we got? So this is a combo we haven't seen. They don't synergize it totally as such, because explosive, a lot of people say you want this third perk only really with 50% VATS crit damage. Those two synergize perfectly. I would still say this is a nice weapon. It is a godroll. Obviously, the thing about 15% VATS crit meter filling faster is if you run a bloodied build or an unyielding build, you will have your luck hitting 33, and you will be getting critical hits every 2 shots without this third perk, without the 15 VCF. Now, with the next update, that's definitely going to change. They've said they're changing the way luck works, so your luck will need to be a lot higher. So this third perk will actually become more valuable when the next big update hits. For me, it's still like I still think it's a nice perk. Because not everyone does unyielding. Most people do. I never used to, but I do now. But it's still a godroll, and enough people, I would say, get value from it. For me, it's better than 15% faster reload by quite a bit. It's not as good as 25 LBC, but it's better than reload. Laser rifle. These started getting a bit more popular again since they improved how energy weapons work. Again, with the last update, they made the damage better with these regular plasmas and ultrasights. So this is a clear godroll. Vampires is desirable always. 25-25. Yeah, this is great. What else do we have here? What have we got that we haven't seen? Here's one we haven't seen. So this is not a godroll with commandos. This secondary perk, 25% damage when aiming. For me, the only value I see in that third perk is on heavy weapons, and even then it's a stretch. I would say not many traders. I don't really see any of these on the board. Just any weapons with 25% damage when aiming. It used to be 10% damage when aiming. I haven't tested it too much. For me, so this would not be a godroll. It just isn't. Nobody really wants this on commandos because so many people use commando weapons in VATS. You're going to have a hard time trading this for anything. So that's the stuff I have on the character. I was hoping to see some secondary and third perks that... here we go. This is a Gauss rifle, but this third perk, 90% reduced weight, applies to commandos, rifleman weapons, basically anything but heavy weapons. If you have this third perk on it, is not a godroll because not enough people want it. You'll have a hard time trading any weapon apart from a heavy weapon with 90 RW. It's just not desirable. What else we have? I mean, we could briefly mention the fact about 2-star weapons. There was a time in the game where, you know, this might have been worth 30,000 caps. Nowadays, you'd probably struggle to get 5,000. With legendary crafting, like I said earlier, the fact that you've got the ability to roll your own weapons, there's no demand for 2 stars. There's too many 33-star perfect rolls about. Let's see. Right, here's a perfect example of what is not a god roll that I often see. +1 any of the stats on weapons is just not desirable, and it instantly makes the weapon not a god roll. +1 agi, perception, you know, strength, whatever you want to call it, it's not going to help the value of weapons. It just decreases it. We had the 250 damage resistant while reloading earlier. This 50 damage resist while aiming, it's the same thing. It just decreases your weapon massively, whatever weapon type. This is for everything. So the same with commandos. This is not a god roll. Yes, you've got bloodied, which is perfect. You've got 50 VCD, which is perfect, but you've got the 50 damage resist ruining the trade value. It is not a god roll. What else have we got that we haven't had? Here's another example. This would be brilliant if that was faster reload or even 25 ALVC, but +1 agility just ruins it. What haven't we seen? We haven't really mentioned mutants yet. Mutants, whilst it got a boost again, I believe, with the last update, it's just not, the damage just isn't as good as other things like Aristocrat or even Junkies. So nobody wants mutants weapons. Whatever the secondary and third perks of any commando, in fact any weapon type, mutants is the same as your ghoul slayer, your zealot, your assassin, your hunters. Nobody wants them. You can't trade them, so they are just not valuable. They are not god rolls. What else have we got here? I think maybe we've oh, there's one we haven't seen. Juggernaut is, for me, it's not very good. I would say it's that a Juggernaut alone doesn't make it a god roll, because there's far better things out there. And the 50% break slower on a fixer, fixers don't break that quick, so it's useless. If this was a railway and you had, say, a bloodied version with 50% VATS crit hits, and break slower is actually quite useful on a railway, because if you, say, come up against the Queen, the railway is a really good weapon to use because it does massive damage, it fires rails really quickly, but it actually breaks very quickly. So I would say you can have 50% break slower on an anti-armor bloodied vampire or quad railway with, say, explosive, faster fire rate, and 50% VATS crit damage, and that would be a god roll, but not any other commando, because they just don't break as fast as railways do. What else do we have here? See, this is stuff that at a time would have been worth something in trade value, but now it's just not. But a lot of this is script. You know, they're 2-star weapons, they're usable, but they're just not worth anything anymore. But they're all either collector pieces or just on the cusp of good, but not good enough for people to want them. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a clear idea in terms of commando weapons and their value and the roles. So I've actually taught a lot longer than I thought I would, so I'm going to cut the video there. I'm going to change the title of this to be just Commandos. And I'll see you in the next video when I look at heavy weapons. Thanks for watching.